offensively? I mean, 2 games, so you get a little snapshot of what you're thinking. Where are you where you thought you would be? Where are you in reality?
You know, there's always an ongoing process of trying to keep improving weekly. I think we were farther ahead on the curve just based off of the experience that we have. I think we're a very mature team. You have an experienced quarterback, a lot of receivers, some pretty good continuity with the O-line, but we still got a long ways to go. We do. You know, I thought when you look at the Youngstown State game, we were a little sloppy at times. I thought we were up and down on certain things and made some mistakes that we shouldn't do. But, you know, where we're at overall, I think we're in a good spot. We are. Like, I think we're healthy. I think our kids mentally and physically are in the right spots. I think the culture's right. You know, the rest is just making sure that we continue to improve each week.
Look at that another way, Jake. The things that you wanted to improve on from last year, how has that stepped up this year?
I think it's improved a lot. You can kind of look at how we've sustained these 10 to 14 play drives. You know, that's something that we look at in terms of efficiency. And, you know, you look at the Tennessee game, I thought we were pretty efficient across the board. We've had, 20 drives on the year. We've had 10 drives each game. And for the most part, I think we've been sustaining drives. You know, our critical downs are a lot better than what we've had in the past. You know, we just got to keep pressing forward in terms of making sure we're consistently playing at that high of a level. But efficiency has been the main thing that I think has changed us on who we are. We're not playing at an ultra, fast pace. We're trying to get into the proper play calls. And, you see at times, like with Will in the first drive, you saw him trying to make that big explosive play, tried to extend some things that, he hadn't done in a while. But after the first drive, he came off the sidelines and he got right back into the flow of how we normally are. And I thought he was, for the most part, really efficient after that first drive.
Jake, how are you? Your mindset changed with using your 4 backs. And I think in the Tennessee game, Dana said you wanted to use Kennedy as the second half guy. I think. Right. Well, how do you go about that? Say, do I change my 4th quarterback? How do you go about that, using those guys based on what you've seen so far?
Just for the running backs, you're saying?
Yeah, running backs.
Yeah, that's always been a tough question. And I thought this past game when we had 75 snaps, you end up getting those guys a lot more touches. But overall, I think it goes through on how they perform throughout the course of the week. Sinkfield got nicked up, and then it's just the next guy in. I think that's constantly going to keep changing throughout the course of this year. I thought Letty Brown had a breakout game, which I think that puts him in the talks of getting more touches as well. It's a healthy competition in that room. It brings out the best in all of them. You can see how all 4 of those running backs are running at a pretty good pace when they're in that game, because they understand that they've got to perform. If not, the other guy's going to step in and play. But I don't have a science to, in the 4th quarter we want this guy. I think that just naturally plays out, and he's the freshest back going in, and he's got to up his play. So I think it just works out on its own right now.
Does having a 215-pounder in the 4th quarter influence you maybe? A guy that's maybe harder to tackle but can be physical when the guys are tired?
He looked good, didn't he? I think what Coach Blackwell did, I think he had around 50 yards after contact. It was about 48, I think, was the final number, which that's impressive for a freshman, and being 215 pounds, that's a load right there. And I think when you have that type of guy that can make those type of plays and keep the ball moving forward after contact, you got to keep feeding that guy the rock to see what happens.
You talked about after the Tennessee game that playing for Letty was mainly just short yard situation, and all this just situationally put him in there. But was it a different plan for him on Saturday, and how much has it changed since then after that big game against Youngstown?
We went in, we were going to give him more touches. There's so many unknowns with the first game. You don't know how a freshman is going to react to the environment that he was put in. But we were going to up his touches, not just in the short yardage packages, but in the open field. And I think with Sinkfield going out, it just upped him even more. And when you got to the end of the game, he was the guy that we just kept feeding the ball, because it was a good opportunity to get him more touches and get him more experience.
Jake, there's often a trend toward trying to label players as he's a power back, he's a speed guy, he's a whatever. Do you consciously try to avoid that trap, and are there, so that you don't pigeonhole a guy with a particular play or set of plays?
Yeah, and also I thought that Letty did a really good job in terms of protection. There was a lot of safety blitzes and Sam linebacker blitzes that he stayed on his point and he protected the quarterback, which that just shows the maturity of that kid, which that's going to naturally get him out of that mold of always being just a short yardage back, or when he comes in the game, we're always going to hand the ball off to him. So I think he, with the more reps that he has, he's just naturally going to get out of that mold.
Yeah, week 1 at Tennessee, before he gets a handoff, he asked Will and points for something and still got the ball. Did you see that progression from week 1 to week 2 of pre-snap?
I think when Coach Blackwell heard that story, they had a pretty good conversation after that and cleaned that up. I think he's a very eager kid, and he's trying. He wants to be really good, and he's putting in a lot of work. You can see the improvements, not just from running the ball. We know that he can run hard and run through contact, but he's now starting to understand the timing of the play, of the gap schemes and the outside zones and the inside zones, and on top of that of just being an all-around back. And you can see him naturally progressing each week. And I just laugh at those stories because there's a lot that goes on in the heat of the battle, and Will's got that calm nature to just be like, listen, you got this guy right here, and just you worry about him and I'll take care of the rest.
Curious, you're averaging whatever it is, 560, 70 yards a game and score 92 points. Haven't had a bunch of chunk plays like you normally do. What do you make of that? What do you read out of that from your offense?
I think it's how they're playing Will. I think that going into the season, a lot of teams are looking at how we were throwing the ball last year, and a lot of their mentality is that they're going to keep everything in front of us and force us to run the ball and make us be an efficient offense, which we kind of saw the writing on the wall for this, and we knew we'd be in these situations. But just you do that consistently, that it's going to eventually, if you're running the ball effectively, it's going to get those safeties more involved, the linebackers more involved, that you're going to be able to hit these deeper passes down the field. And you saw that really in the second half with, Gary caught a couple of deep balls, and you saw that in the Tennessee game in the second half where we were running the ball and more, and they started loading up the box and giving us opportunities on the perimeter. So I think that's just part of the chess match that we got to play each week on just how they're going to come out and play us. And I think we've got answers for all of it, and just keep focusing on being the most efficient offense we can possibly be.
Jake, there's a lot of negatives, obvious negatives coming out of if you don't play this game this week. What positives come from that?
You know how I am. I want to play them. The thing is we've got the game plan in. We've put the work in as a coaching staff. We're going to execute it out there again today. It's just part of the process. I don't know if there's any positives you get out of it. Or not playing it because you would like to get an extra game underneath your belt going into conference play, but those are the things we can't control, and we just focus on. Right now it's just focus on being NC State.
A little extra time to heal up and
that could be for sure a positive. Definitely help with the guys that got bumps and bruises. An off week's always going to be good on the kids from a recovery standpoint. But from a coach's standpoint, you've got to keep challenging these kids, and you got to keep getting better because it is a long season. And there's a lot of mistakes that we had in this past Youngstown game that we need to improve on. And you just got to keep staying the course with these guys and stay with the process, because we can't be playing our best ball right now. Championship teams are going to have to be improving weekly for us to make a run at it.
For the players that you have that are whose families might be in the path of the storm, their hometowns, have you talked to any of them? Or are they talking? How do you feel like they're dealing with that?
I bet you they're having a lot of conversations. I haven't really talked much with the players because of their off day yesterday, and we were game planning the entire time. So, but I bet you all the kids have a plan of action on what they're trying to do.
You had some penalties in the last game that you didn't have in the first one. Pre-snap stuff, holding. what's the message to your guys? Obviously, beyond don't do it. Were the holds and what you saw on tape, were they legitimate holds or?
You know, there's opinions on all those. Like you can call holding every single play. You've probably heard that said a ton of times, but that's the way it is. They got called for a holding. We need to be cleaner with our technique. And some of it goes down to effort and moving your feet and hand placement. And the challenge to the offense after the game on, you know, in our unit meeting on Sunday was about improving with our technique. Like we can't afford to have 8 penalties, and not just 8 penalties. We had, you know, 4 ball security, you know, situations that where the ball was on the ground. We can't afford that either. We also had 4 negative plays. You know, we've got to eliminate the negative plays, the penalties, the ball security issues, the things that we can control. I always tell them that holding is going to happen, but the thing that we've got to coach off of it, and we got to correct it as an individual in terms of technique.
Doesn't that kind of play into what Pelini wanted to do, make you drive down the field and screw up, you know, that kind of thing? Does that lead into that?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I thought that was the negative part of our unit meeting was the penalties. And, you know, when you're playing a team that's in that bend, don't break mentality, like that's tough to overcome at times. And I thought from an adversity standpoint, I thought they did a really good job of overcoming those longer situations. Because I think on every single penalty that we had, we overcame it at some point, you know, which is a testament to them on understanding how they're playing you, being efficient, you know, getting the ball in play, always moving forward. But those penalties are crushing us right now, and when we get into tight battles, that's not going to play into our favor.
What we saw out of Sims last week is going to be a weekly happening. How different and more explosive does that make your offense, and does it affect the use of tight ends?
Yeah, and Pelini's game plan was take Davis Sills out of the game. You know, he had 2 to 3 guys on him at all times. So that's naturally going to open up someone else. And that's what we've talked about so much is that if you elevate your play, you're going to open up other people. And we want everybody on the perimeter playing at a high level, right? Because that puts a lot of stress on defensive coordinators on who they're going to try to take away in the game plan. You know, and if you can get the run game going more efficiently and effectively, then yeah, it's kind of a pick your poison type deal. But just to see Marcus, we knew that he's capable of doing that. That was good just to see it happen. It's been great to see Gary finally getting in the end zone, which I think he's got 4 of them now, which is good to see other people having success because the focus on this past game was to try to take Sills out of the game.
Through running stuff, the 2 running backs at once, correct me if I'm wrong, not as much last year.
Yeah, not as much.
More this year.
More.
All the motion and just the sleight of hand stuff you can do too. What is that opening up and how much is left that you can still present?
Yeah, again, it goes down to the conversations that we've had about, you know, how do you play all 4 of these running backs? And that's where that package increases because we think we got 4 good ones that, you know, you can create packages to get them on the field because I think they got great ball skills, so you can motion them out and put them on routes. At the same time, you can hand it off and get into screen games and everything of that nature as well. So you're going to keep continuing to see more packages of that. Another thing is that I'm trying not to be so heavy with the tight ends because we don't have very many of them right now. You know, you can't afford to just run Wesco out there for, you know, 65 plays of the 75 plays. You know, you got to get a little bit creative. You got to be cautious of how many plays these kids are playing, and that's just kind of how these packages evolve.
First game action for Allison. Any benefits? He only got 3 passes, I think, but just getting out there in the spotlight. What did you think of his performance?
You know, just from the standpoint of walking out there in the Mountaineer field, you know, there's a lot you can get past that. The nerves. That's the first college game he's played in, you know, and I thought he handled it well. You know, there's always going to be nerves. You saw a lot of those young kids going in and getting their first opportunities out there, and they were nervous going out there, which I think the more you do that, the more calmer they're going to be. And I thought Jack handled it well. He had great poise, managed that offense pretty well for just the drive that he had. Was just a little off on that one throw. But you can correct that pretty easily, but very pleased with where Jack's at.
Do you expect to have
all four backs in your rotation this weekend?
I'm trying to, yeah. That was a loaded question.
How does Steele come so wide open on that seam route? It was just busted coverage. I think the one that the ball just carried out of the end zone.
On Jax, you're saying?
No, wasn't it on Sills and Greer early?
Oh, yeah, there was a little miscommunication on that one. Will thought he was taking it high, and he flattened the route off a little bit more. You know, that's a new concept that we're toying with, which is a good learning experience. You know, we ran that the first play where Yadney ended up getting the holding penalty. That was to Marcus on a deep post where we should have hit David Sills. That was on that first drive where Will was trying to hit the home run shot. Came back to that play a couple more times where we scored with Gary on that, and then the Sills play that was overthrown.
Do you recall how much Will ran, what you sent in, and how much he checked off that Saturday?
This game was he didn't do very many checks because they were so cautious of. We called a lot of run. They were playing four guys in the box at times, you know, where we had to take advantage of that. So they didn't do anything to try to catch them off guard with stuff. So this was one of the games that kind of naturally played its course, not compared to the Tennessee game where he checked a lot.
Because the two opponents so far, have you run the ball differently or with different personnel?
We went a little more spread, more four wide with Youngstown, based off of how they were playing everybody. They were bracketing all the receivers, so it got to the point where there's not very many guys in the box at all. So we took advantage of that.
Receivers out there to spread it out even.
Spread it out, yeah.
Jake, there was a lot made about Gary's 3-touchdown game on Saturday. What sort of improvements have you seen out of him maybe last year coming into this year?
Not much. Like he's obviously improved. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten faster. He's gotten leaner. You know, I think he's carrying his weight well. He's taking a lot of pride in blocking. You know, that's something that he improved off of. I think it's just finally now that we've got other weapons out there that is opening up a lot more opportunity for him vertically. And sometimes it's the right place at the right time. Will caught certain defenses, like in Tennessee and certain checks, that worked out for him. But we've always known that Gary can go get it. It's just finally he's actually crossing the end zone.
Is Will taught to make those plays, like the pass interference against Marcus? He just kind of threw it up there, and I know he did that a couple times last year. Is that just
the thing with Will and Marcus is that they're on the same page in terms of he knows that Marcus is going to run by anybody. So that's why he gets a little greedy at times and holds on it, and he was gonna bomb that one to the corner of the end zone almost. And Marcus there was a collision that kind of hurt the play, but that's what we're trying to eliminate, because I know that at times, like if we need it, Will can hold on to the ball as long as he can. He can throw it pretty far. But, you know, get to your second and third read, because that's why those routes to Marcus kept opening up. Like Marcus kept hitting that curl route is because everybody was running with Gary. So if you watch the tape on it, it's pretty interesting. You'll see three guys running with Gary and leave Marcus wide open. So, you know, they were not going to let us try to hit the deep shot.
Dana addressed Chase's first start a little bit, but sliding in from tackle, you know, what you and Wickline see out of that was promising?
It was good. You know, I think there's still a healthy competition there. I thought both of them played well. There's still a long ways to go at that spot, but for the most part, from mentally, he's going to the right guys. You know, I think from a physical standpoint too, he knows what he's doing. He plays with technique. That's been a pretty amazing story in terms of how he was a D lineman when I was here, and then he flipped to the O-line room, and now he's starting at right guard for us. So he knows that he's got a long ways to go, and he knows that we got to keep improving. So that's the importance of still trying to get this game in if we can.